Hi, everybody. Welcome to AI for the Average Joe, episode 1. Begin at the beginning. Erica and Hayley here from Quantum Rise. Hope you're well. We've brought this little mini podcast video series together because we're average Joes. Our superpower is really working with digital learning and tech and innovation, but we found that there's lots of stuff on people's feeds talking about AI and marketing and tech and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know if you're anything like us, we were pretty blown away, overwhelmed, not too sure what this whole thing was about. So we thought we'd dig in and have a go. So Hayley, how did you feel last week when I started talking about AI and potentially doing a video podcast about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence?
So my initial reaction was, here she goes again. No, it wasn't. I was, to be honest,
It was. It's okay.
It's not,
you can say that.
It's not something that I've explored yet really to any great detail, which is bizarre considering what we do. And I think probably the reason for that is I just didn't see what value it could add to me, not just at work but me as a person. I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's over here. ChatGPT doesn't mean anything, it doesn't say what it does on the tin. So you don't really know what it is you're accessing, so I hadn't really considered using it. I know we talked about it, and I know that you'd been playing around with it for a little bit and looking at it for various different work that you're working on. So I kind of put it in that box, if I'm totally honest. And it really sometimes with things like this just takes someone showing you it and saying, yeah, but just type in something relevant to you, because that's the point here, isn't it? Is you can watch videos of other people using it for different things, but okay, that's great, but what does that mean for me? And I think when that light bulb went off, then I was excited about it and thinking, okay, so there is something we can do with this.
Yeah, exactly. And it is like I like what you said there about it's not it doesn't say what it does on the tin.
It doesn't. It's like, well, what is this?
Yeah, what is this ChatGPT? Like, it's not even easy to say, is it?
No, it's not. Exactly that. Exactly.
Yeah. And like people think about, I don't know about you, but like as a bit of a sci-fi geek, initially when people were talking about AI, I was thinking Terminator, Skynet, Judgment Day, the Matrix, the machines are coming.
It's the future. You're thinking about the future, not the present, aren't you? When you think about it's the connotations of those words, for sure. Exactly. And I know more people are bringing it into their present now. But again, you're in that same situation where, great, we know about it now, we're starting to play with it, but I guess the real trick is utilizing it for something practical that you can do something with, that's adding value to your life, to your work as well.
Yeah, and I was reading on LinkedIn this morning that it feels like there's almost a little bit of AI shaming starting to happen. Like, someone was saying, I've just read a thing saying if you're not using AI already, you're already behind the curve, and people are starting to feel a bit like AI guilt for not using it. So this is where AI from the Average Joe came from. We're average Joes, right? Non-experts when it comes to this kind of level of tech. So shall we hop on and just show people like how far we've got, what we've been using it for?
Yeah.
Again, that kind of practical, real life type opportunity that folk might hopefully will take some inspiration and some practical thought from. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, just starting at the beginning, isn't it? Yeah. And actually finding where you can find it and what you can use it for.
Yeah, totally. So if you haven't been on to ChatGPT so far, literally just put that into Google, and it's a product by a company called OpenAI. That's the organization that's created ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one element, like a subsection of artificial intelligence. So this is the generative AI subsection, and ChatGPT as an example of that. So it's effectively a product that enables you to create something. It's that simple. So we've already kind of logged on, so I'm not going to kind of sign up and etc., but just follow the prompts as you would anyone. I've just shortcutted it there, as you can see on the top. And this is effectively ChatGPT. This is what you get, is a bit of a quite simple looking interface, really, that asks you just to send a message or ask it a question. and that's it, isn't it? It's like you expect something a bit more complex.
It's so easy to use, and like you say, there's not a load of text, a load of coding, stuff you have to put in. It is just designed for your everyday average Joe.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to ask it a question. How do I use ChatGPT to create learning content? Let's just try that to start, because most of the people on this watching this video will be probably L&D folk, HR folk, etc. And you can see it's like thinking a little bit here, and it will start to generate an example answer to what I've just asked it. And you can see on the left-hand side.
It still blows my mind how quick it goes. I don't know if that's just me. I've got to get over that, really. It's so speedy.
It is super, super clever, isn't it? It's literally, so this is ChatGPT 3.5, which is effectively the free version of this product. You can upgrade to ChatGPT 4 for $20 a month. That's about 17 quid at the moment. And I'll show you some of the differences on between 3.5 and 4 at the moment. But just look at some of this stuff, and this is really a prompt. You prompt it to give you a prompt when it comes to creative thinking. Again, we're talking learning objectives, outline, interactions, responses, editing content, supplementary additional resources. It's like all that stuff as L&D people we'd spend days and days doing, and it's just come up with it, isn't it?
Yeah. And then to build on that, so how do I use ChatGPT to create learning content? We can say, right, so this is how I can use it and where I can use it. And then you can pull another prompt in, can't you, to say, okay, so create some learning objectives for X, and let's see what happens.
Create learning objectives for a session on ChatGPT.
Oh, yes.
And interesting, I've got a spelling error there, but it still is clever enough to realise what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
To understand the concept of it, explore application, evaluation benefit.
I know. Now, these learning objectives, I don't know about you, but this wouldn't line up with what we do because of the amount of text there. So should we see what happens when we summarize it?
Summarize. Literally just put in the command summarize, and you get like a paragraph literal summary of
that's more like it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually going to give us quite a lot there. Normally it gives you just like a paragraph of an overview, doesn't it? Let's overview of session, see if that's gonna do anything.
Yeah, it's condensed it a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, let's kick that in.
It's just great how you can continue to prompt on the previous text rather than new searches all the time, isn't it? There we go.
Yeah, there you go. So it's saying it's going to be a 90-minute session based, it's given us a title, Understanding AI-Powered Models, I think that was. Even the time breakdown is given.
It's scary, isn't it?
Oh, it just makes me like you said, each time we just get a bit blown away, really.
Yeah.
So so ChatGPT, it's effectively scraping in information from its training points, and I'll give you a bit more information about that in a moment. But it only takes data up to about September 2021. So if you're asking it anything from 2021 to now, it won't have any training points. So effectively what it's been trained on, the data that it holds from that time period, I'm sure that will change and we'll get upgrades, and it will start accessing the internet and all that kind of stuff as well.
Should we create a new chat, Erica, and try and play around with some other stuff? Because at the weekend, so I had my son was asking me, so he's only 4, and he was asking me all week last week if I could write him a treasure hunt. I don't know if there's any parents out there that have ever tried to write treasure hunt clues, but it's really hard. You really have to think about it. And then not only that, I've then got to make them harder for my 7-year-old because otherwise it's too easy. So every now and again, usually at Christmas, I might write a treasure hunt. But I thought, do you know what, actually, let's try ChatGPT for this. So I put in a new chat and I simply just wrote, write treasure hunt clues for the house for a 4-year-old. And honestly, I didn't have to adapt anything. I just took them as they were.
Oh my
God. It wrote the clues.
That's amazing.
So I copied and pasted it into Word, I printed them out and I hid them around the house. And it was just so clever. Now, once I'd done that, I wanted my 7-year-old daughters to be similar, but slightly more tricky. So I then said, now, I think I said, now write these for a 7-year-old or something like that. And then I had the same treasure hunt,
but like
with
higher,
more challenging
more
clues.
challenge. Yeah. It's just amazing, isn't it? They all rhyme and everything, don't they? It's so clever.
And gives you the answer and everything. So it's it's just great that just things like that even you know, and it created a nice little bit of entertainment for half an hour. So
and doesn't that show like the application to just everyday life? This isn't about L&D or HR or operation manuals or policies or computer science or, you know, any of that stuff, is it? This is just about life.
Yeah,
and actually
exactly.
we're already working with AI when it comes to Siri and Alexa and Google, you know, when it kind of finishes your sentence before you finish typing and stuff like that. So I think this is the next stage, isn't it? But just to kind of to get people understanding this is a day-to-day thing. So
we can build on this, can't we, as we start to tap into this more. But I think just as a starter for 10, if you are watching this, log on to the ChatGPT site, get yourself signed up. It's free, as Erica said, and just have a play around with it. Put commands in that means something to you. Someone was saying to me, I saw somewhere about putting in, you know, I've got ham, potatoes and cheese in my fridge, and asking it, what can I make with this? There it is. Let's see what it says. And you can get just, you know, you can just keep searching anything, can't you? There's so many different ways that you can use it.
Interestingly, I haven't put a very good prompt in there. I haven't really asked it a question, so it's just taken a little bit longer to try and figure out what I'm actually saying, but it's got there. Interesting. Here's a simple recipe for ham, potatoes and cheese.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. Look,
so you can
amazing.
just see. So I think, you know, anybody having a look at this and exploring it, just use it for something.
Just have a go,
Try
right?
it.
Yeah, totally. Have a go.
Exactly.
Just for those of you who like a little bit more data and science that sits behind it, just as we start to wrap up, I wanted to just share some information that I got off a webinar by the guys at Neurosite last week. Really good webinar. They focus on supporting your recruitment and assessment process when it comes to stress testing. So, for example, it was interesting. They were showing examples of where candidates had submitted overview letters and answers to questions as part of the assessment, and you could see the GPT response. And as a recruiter, as a human being, you would struggle to tell the difference of whether it was a human generated response or an AI generated response. That was interesting. But this was the slide I was really interested in, is 3.5, which is the free product, 175 billion, I think that is, data points, which is what it's trained on. The next version, the paid version, which is 4, is 100 trillion. I don't know if I've got the zeros right on that. Forgive me if I haven't. But look at just the size of the circles, shows you 4 is pulling for so much more data, which I guess is why it's the paid version. And therefore you get a better quality in general of response. So if you are using ChatGPT for something quite sophisticated, you know, and you don't want to have to worry too much around the quality of data and fact checking and all that kind of stuff, and we'll go into that in future episodes. I just thought this was a really interesting point.
It is. And it's probably worth saying at this point as well that we're not disregarding the risks and the challenges with this. But just as a start for 10, let's start looking at it. And then as we have more of these conversations and pull together a few more of these videos, Erica, I think it's, you know, we need to touch on some of the challenges and risks as well, which we know will sit behind this, particularly in the context of learning, design and work.
Yeah, classic example. Last week, we've kind of mentioned this already, just as we start to tie up this today's episode. I decided to put in the title of my honours degree dissertation from 2002 into ChatGPT last week to see, just out of curiosity, what would it come up with and how similar was it to the dissertation that I wrote for my degree? And I just asked it to put an excerpt in, so you can write an extract of a degree dissertation, the subculture of a women's university football team. It must cover. So this is where you get into more detail in your prompts. If you want something more specific that it has to look at, it must cover topics like sexuality, hierarchy, socialization, singing songs, and power. And I was just amazed when it came up with this, because if you were to compare this against, I think pretty much what I spent hours and hours and hours, and was it 10,000 words on a dissertation? It was pretty much like for like. So talking about risks, if you're involved in any kind of assessing of work, particularly adult learning apprenticeships, universities, that kind of stuff, this is the stuff you've got to be looking out for. Now, some of the clues that you might see is this didn't have the Erica-related examples or stories or metaphors or personality that my dissertation would have had, because I was writing it about me as a person, whereas ChatGPT writes it more fact-based or what it knows from the internet. So just something to look out for.
Definitely. Do you know what I was most shocked about? Is that you actually remembered the title of your dissertation.
I know, right? So I'm proud of it, that's why.
I can't even remember my topic.
Loan.
Very good, very good. Yeah, brilliant, great stuff. Okay,
let's stop sharing.
Yeah, do you think we should call it a day there, and then we can sort of bring in some more of this stuff and build it out as we go? But it's been great.
So yeah, so hopefully that's been a good start for you to just, again, the episode's called Begin at the Beginning. So like Hayley said earlier, get on to OpenAI, open a free account, have a look. You know, don't get too worried, too overwhelmed, just have a play. Obviously, just be careful in the types of data that you're putting into it, because we don't want to kind of breach anything around GDPR or whatever, but just ask it some generic questions like, you know, Hayley's treasure hunt question, and just start to get into it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks very much.
Thank you.